Hello, everyone, and welcome to us Spotlight. Join with me is D10, GM of Dragon Tongue Entertainment. Oh, hi, D10.
I think you might have broken the vocal cords back here. You have to get way up in here and then it just flows.
I think we might have just made a new golem, by the way.
How did
Delicious.
I am impressed if you're able to hold an entire scene like that with a character with that voice. Who is that character, by the way?
Currently, that character
Although she might be a little bit more up here.
is an NPC in my Ack Inc. game called Violacia, who, as her name might suggest,
It's a walking violation of a lot of sorts.
Okay, I got the name now. Incredible. And before we even actually jump into the questions proper, we are also sort of dabbling into my other icebreaker, which is your snack, your table snack of choice, which apparently is amalgamation. What's the story on this?
about 2 years ago, my Friday group got together, and we've been playing ever since. And they asked me what my favorite snack was, much like an icebreaker question that you ask 2 years into getting to know somebody. And I gave them a little bit of everything, not knowing that they were planning on sending whatever I said. So imagine you get a box and you put Takis and Doritos and you put little popcorn bags in and chocolate chip cookies and Oreos and Reese's, and you just put all of that together and you send it out like good players do. Good players should give the DM as many snacks as possible when they want to level up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's some good bribery material. Yeah.
It's the best. Actually, do you want to see the best bribery material? Included in that is they gave me, let me hold these up. They sent me a custom dice set.
Ooh. Wow. They sent you a teal set?
They did. And our channel has done dice giveaways in the past. Not enough, but it's something that I like to do. And every so often we like to get specialized dice creators on there and include them, which would be easier to do if more people come to the channel and subscribe and give me money so I can do more giveaways. Not to bring everybody to DTE_N on Twitch, but that's neither here nor there. No, they bribed me with a lot of snacks, and it was much appreciated.
Well, speaking of D10 or DTE_N, which is your moniker online, the actual play channel that you are currently GMing or you are GMing is Dragon Tongue Entertainment. Do you mind telling us more about that actual play channel and what you're currently running?
What would you like to know the most? Would you like?
I think, you know what sounds interesting to me? I want to know the beginning. I want to know how did Dragon Tongue kind of form? Was it like a table game or like an in-person home game that evolved to an actual play? Or was it something that was just kind of from the get-go, something about content?
The original conception of it. God, this was 2018-ish. I did not have a lot of experience with Dungeons and Dragons, but I knew that it's a game that involved language. And I was in graduate school at the time. I was looking for a tool that could be used to teach language, and I was like, man, this seems like a good thing. And I started looking into it, and then, as often happened, addiction, and life has never really been the same since. And the original concept, the original name, involves that invocation of language. That's the tongue in Dragon Tongue.
Oh, I see.
And as often happens, it kind of slid from the original intent, although it would be nice to get back to that original intent. But it slid to first I had to really learn the game. Then I had to learn to play the game and DM the game. In its current phase, it's impossible, next to impossible, to get people to have a steady in-person game.
Hmm.
So it transitioned to an online game. In my Monday group, I was initially a player, and the DM decided that they didn't want to run it, and I didn't want to lose those people. So I took over the DMing spot there. And the Friday group was it was my initial attempt to learn how to DM online. And that's where I got both of those D&D groups, is I was trying to figure out how to go about this. And during the process, you learn a lot in 2 years. You learn how the software works. I've learned more about video editing than I ever thought that I would care to know.
It's mandatory, man. It is.
It really is. It really is. And I have butchered my share of videos and botched a lot of streams that just did not come out as I intended. There are lost episodes. There are episodes of only me talking because something faltered and the player audio is just gone. And I don't think, as great as my voice is, I don't think anybody would be interested in me monologuing with invisible people for two and a
Staying
half
silent
hours.
for 5 minutes as people have role play scenes, and you're like just nodding.
Actually, the best part about DMing, one of the best parts, is when you're looking back over the recording sessions and the DM bar has long periods of silence and the players are just going back and forth. Those are absolutely the best times.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when you presented a story or a scenario that allows people to just live and run whatever that situation is, it's a good validation as a GM to be like, yes, and you take the scene away. I kind of enjoy it there. And from what it sounds like to me too, is that you kind of graduated from player seat. You know, you didn't just start and jump into the sort of the GM seat right away. You were a player for a bit.
Actually, I was a spectator. So, as I said, one of the hardest things to do, especially when you're around busy people, is to get a lasting in-person game. And it became obvious that the only way that I was going to get to DM, the only way that I was really going to get to play would be to strong arm as many people around me in as possible. And no, my first experience was actually a DM.
Oh.
I didn't get to be a player for like 1.5 years. I consumed, that was at the time when all of the actual plays were just hitting, and I learned to play a lot through actual plays. That's why my Monday game is an Inc. game. Acquisitions Incorporated as a live play taught me a lot, both the actual Chris Perkins one and the C team, which I like. Stylistically, you'll probably see those plays in how I DM.
I'm sure when it comes to, from your position of observing first, and then kind of jumping into the GM seat, and the fact that from what we've seen so far already, there's already kind of like, dice sets being sent your way and dice sets that are kind of an importance to you. Do you remember the first dice set you ever got yourself, or you ever just owned?
Yes, I overpaid at a bookstore.
Oh.
I only have 2 pieces up, but it's just a plain green set.
Mm-hmm.
It is just a plain green set. It's the only one I have that's like this, and I would have it no other way because I'd like to know the first set that was actually mine.
That's incredible. There's this interesting concept when it comes to being a GM, telling stories and writing like plot lines and character backstories and the whole thing. Like, there's a lot of writing, creative behind it, as well as sort of storytelling and just sort of overall speech discussion. which I think is very fitting for a channel named Dragon Tongue. But they're also sort of this underlying layer of creation, not just what we're currently doing in the table, but also editing, recording, streaming, something along the lines of just showcasing it to the masses. That comes from a different love. From my understanding is like a different love of creation. Were you always interested in content creation, or did this just come like an aftermath?
Always is such a long time. I was always interested in creating something. When I was young, I wanted to write stories and novels, and I wanted to consume as much as I wanted to create. Right? There's this bond of consuming and creation that's just constant and there. And I didn't know much about Dungeons and Dragons, as I said, for a very long time. Before it was things like World of Warcraft, and I not to age myself or date myself, but Ultima Online was one of my first introductions to this kind of things. Actually, earlier than that, old Forgotten Realms books that I really didn't know what they were, but I've always been connected. I just didn't understand what most of it was.
Yeah.
But the more that you get into it, the more that I progress. There's always an element of production, and I want to share this. Just the idea of using it as a teaching tool, which there's a whole separate side story about how that deviated. But there's always an element of sharing and creating and giving out, and then seeing how people take and use the thoughts in the videos.
Yeah. It's this added layer, I think, when it comes to telling a story online, which is obviously there's enough work on us GMs regardless to, build the plot lines and kind of get each story beat and sort of figure out what each session holds. And then you add on the complexity of content creation. When it comes to that sort of buckling down and kind of figuring out what's going to happen with Dragon Tongue, do you happen to have, in your opinion, what is the hardest thing about running an actual play?
Besides all the streaming equipment?
That could be, that's valid. Tech itself has a mind of its own.
No, once you hit the learning curve, I record far less silent videos now than I used to. I have been very lucky with my online plays. I think a lot of people struggle with getting a good group together and having that scheduling where everybody consistently meets. And both groups have been running now for about 2 years. There's a third Daggerheart group, but it's just kind of an amalgamation of members of the other groups. Daggerheart's on Tuesdays if anybody wants to watch that.
Sorry, I've heard Monday days, Friday crews, and Tuesday crews. How many games are you running a week?
I run 3. We have the Monday. These are all Eastern times. Monday at 9:30, Tuesday at 10, and Friday at 10, and they're all weekly games. And yeah, they do take up a good amount of time.
I can imagine. I'm currently in the same boat, except 2 out of the 3 are not produced in live stream. So I can only imagine that adding that extra layer of complexity it takes a strong will to sort of keep that up weekly. So good on you. Very much so.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
With running all these games, I'm sure you have sort of a large sample size of what your preferences would be when it comes to running these particular games and sessions. In your opinion, what is the perfect session length?
Our sessions run for about 2.5 hours. Actually, we originally blocked it out. We blocked out 2.5 to 3 hours. If you're asking what the perfect session length is, that's a different answer for streaming than if you were to get together with people. If you get together with people, it's a whole event. 4 hours is not crazy because you set specific time to be there with each other. The longer a live play is, the harder it is to get people to pay attention, the audience wise, although sometimes the players too. No, I would say 2 to 2.5 hours is the perfect live play length, and the perfect in-game length is however long you can take it without people storming out of the house.
I think you've hit something that not a lot of people talk about, and that is kind of like audience retention. You know, I've seen channels, and they do well. I mean, honestly, if you're able to find that niche and sort of find that length of like 4+ hours, that's grand. But I think there's something important to say about audience retention when you are running a channel, and sometimes 2 hours is just a good amount of time for like a good drive, or someone watching your video in the background while they're studying or while they're drawing or something along the lines of like, so it doesn't become overconfident.
The best length is complete related but completely unrelated. I chop a lot of mine up because I search for moments. I search for what I consider the best moments as I'm doing other things. I listen to my stuff, and there's always moments that grab me. I chop the best moments into TikToks and shorts. And what I found the best way to retain people in little chunks is like little 15-second chunks. Those will have the best retention.
Yes, those are like the little baits that you throw into the water, and hopefully people stay to see the entire pond.
Yes, you do have to become a master at that to reel them in.
So, if you don't mind, I'm curious when it comes to storytelling on your front. And I know, by the way, I've met numerous GMs, and a lot of them, especially when it comes to actual plays, there's this idea that the rules in the game, like if we use Dungeons and Dragons as sort of a base on that, the rules of the games can be kind of flexible because it is for entertainment, it is for the enjoyment of not only your players, but also the audience. First, let's see if that is also the case for you, if you're kind of flexible in the rules. And if so, is there a rule at your table that is written in stone?
Is there a rule that's written in stone? First and foremost, I have to say this. Whether we're streaming, whether we have an audience or not, I run the same game. If you watch my game, you get the exact same experience as if you were sitting at the table. And the rules are a very good base. You have to have an understanding that this is the floor. It's not necessarily the ceiling, but it can be. If a player wants to do something really cool, then that's possible. What's best to do, if it corresponds to an in-world skill, give them the option like, okay, yes, you can clear that. You can get that extra movement. You can kick off the wall, but you have to succeed on a DC 15 acrobatics checks. And if you fail, you hit the wall and you fall prone. Risk versus reward. And then they go, do I really want that moment? And no matter what, if they take it, they're going to make a moment. You get failure is just as valid, if not more valid. Failure is fun, and success is fun. But it's that moment of they have to make a choice. Yes, the rules are suspended, but is it worth it? And written in stone, the one thing that I tell my players, and I don't know if this is quite along the line, but one thing I tell my players when we session 0, and I remind them of it, is that player death is always an option. I roll in the open, so there's nothing to hide. If the dice and players' bad decisions end up in a player going down, that is just something we accept. And honestly, some of the best moments have been player death moments. We have special rules for handling player death that makes it a little more meaningful, but the players know that one bad session, they might need a new character, or they might need to find a way to bring this character back into the game.
No, that's fair. There's always this discussion that death in game, is kind of, it is seen as an ultimate negative, when in reality it does sort of bring a good story. So long as there is obviously like, intent and contention. It's not very good for the story if someone just like a thief runs behind you and stabs you in the neck and then you're dead. Game over. Let's move on.
But that would create a hook to go get that thief.
That's
right?
true.
There's always the rolling of the story forward. As long as the story keeps moving forward, you have a chance to answer, I don't want to say correct, but you have a chance to touch on anything that's happened.
That's fair.
And it's sometimes when characters die, right? Players hopefully don't die, but characters die. Sometimes they are more than happy to leave that character behind and play somebody new. Sometimes you can tell if a player is angling to get their character killed because they just don't want to play them anymore. Character death is an opportunity to try other things, to connect to the story in new ways, to let somebody go. The death rules that we use, death is typically going to happen in combat. The player comes back as a spirit. They're still acting throughout the combat. They can use their health point. When they use their health point, permanently goes down if they're revived, to heal players that are still in combat. And they can do up to 10 healing per turn. And when they do that, they impart a memory onto the character, and they get to describe something from their character's backstory or their past, or a feeling that they give to the other character. And that way, the player and the character, they get that little bit more of closure. Other things they can do, they can grant advantage to the party at the cost of their health pool. They can grant disadvantage to monsters at a cost equal to the monster's CR level. And if a player character hits 0 as that ghostly entity, they cannot be revived in any way, or at least any way short of something powerful like a wish spell.
Yeah. And this is something you've implemented in your games.
Yes, the Daggerheart doesn't use that system, but the D&D games does. And that keeps a player from just not doing anything, just sitting there and watching everybody else.
That's great. Yeah, it's really good, even as a sort of outsider, or even just from the GM seat, of like learning that there is a process and a system you have set or are utilizing that allows even characters who have died to sort of still interact with the game, which is really fun. It means they're not just like hands up and going, I'm done for the day, let's go home. And you also mentioned something too, because as we're talking about like player death, which is very much of like an unfortunate experience, but it is something that occasionally happens, is kind of the joyous, maybe the importance of failing. You mentioned a while back of like failing's great. Sometimes failing a check is also just as entertaining, or as
if not more.
Yeah, I believe that, and I'm not sure if you're in the same boat, that character flaws are way more important than whatever successes your character had in their backstory.
Backstories can be dangerous. You always have the risk of a level 1 character that has slain gods and dragons, and just like that's a little too much.
Mm-hmm.
The flaws are a fantastic way as a tool to lean into. If they put a flaw in their backstory, the DM should pick that up and find appropriate places to touch on it or insert it, or even the lightest touch. They see somebody walking down the street, and that somebody has just the smallest hint, a piece of clothing, maybe a scar that they see that connects back to that person's backstory. And then do they want to go and get it? Do they want to not? But No, flaws are great to lean into, whether it's something the character's bad at or something that a mishap that's happened to the character. Um, as narrative device is good. Flaws where if they end up with like a 3 as a stat score, bad. There is such a thing as too low a stat score.
There's this scenario that I absolutely enjoy and I love when it comes to like flawed characters, is the flawed character who believes that their worst stat, or at least the worst skill that they have, is kind of their best. There is a really unique balance on how to do that correctly, because you don't want to be someone who's really bad at persuasion and is trying to talk over, the bard who has amazing persuasion, and you're like in a group scenario and you're like, no, I'll screw this up for everyone, but above table because you have like a -2. The scenarios I love painting are those moments where players are separated. Like, my character is going to go buy something. Okay, well, you don't need a chaperone. You can go on your own. And then those players going, great, I'm really bad at persuasion. I can't wait to badly persuade, the shopkeeper to give me a discount. And having those kind of moments where it doesn't interrupt user experience, but it gives that flaw such a moment to shine.
Yeah, and like you said, there are times where it's better for that to happen than others, and that's a thing that the players can agree on, right? Above table, if a player with bad persuasion is going to try to get a discount, that's funny. It's not necessarily going to hurt the party. The player with bad persuasion trying to persuade the big bad about something, that could have negative consequences. And if everybody's on board for that, great. If not, it's a choose your moments kind of thing.
Yeah.
You gotta choose the moments where you're going to let the flaws like that shine through when it's going to affect in-game events.
When it comes to storytelling, definitely when it goes from GM to GM, everything differs. Some stories are told in arcs, some are continuous, like one long continuous string of story, while others are kind of that very unique mission to mission where they're not super interconnected, but at least maybe the home base or location is. For these different types of stories and storytelling methods, what is your preferred way to tell a long form story?
Ooh, I said earlier that the stories are really made up of moments, right? That's what I search for when I chop them up. That's what I look for. It's the moments that make the story, and the best. There are a couple of ways to get those moments, and one is to make sure that each character's backstory is taken care of and they connect. If you have your players connecting to the story, you're going to make so much more progress. Like an example, we're playing Shattered Obelisk on Friday. We're almost done. We're going to switch to Waterdeep, but we're playing Shattered Obelisk at the moment, and there are large elements of that story that have been shaped to include the backstories of the players and to help their motivations. And there's a Goliath cave of the ancestors that they have been to, and that when they die, they just kind of go sit there and watch. And there's some real emotional moments that are brought out like that. There's the story itself, especially modules. If you play modules, you have the story, and you're adapting that. And then you have the short and long term twists, which I've got a couple built in to all of my games. That events happen that get retouched on later. And I don't want to give too much away because I don't know who will watch this. I know that if they want to suck up, they're going to watch this and they're going to go, man, that was a great interview. And I'm going to be like, yeah, this is a great interview. But one of the long-term things that happened is that got discovered recently. The Goliath Barbarian in the Friday Shattered Obelisk campaign failed a Constitution saving throw against a Slod and got infected with a little baby Slod.
Oh no.
But they had no idea.
Yeah.
They had absolutely no idea. And they were on like a 70-day countdown to
Oh no.
and Far Realm effect. Far Realm has a lot of chaotic energy that can exhaust you. And the cleric of the party, every time she went to do a greater restoration, I just touched on a little bit that there's like some other chaos there that you don't know what it is. But you got the exhaustion and you got this, and you can only cure one effect. And she chose the I'm gonna cure the thing that I don't know. And this little baby slod tadpole slid out and destroyed a perfectly good plot point that I could have used in the future to figure out what this character did and if the character is potentially going to expire or have to find a way quickly to save himself. And that was a long-term plot point, one of several that are worked in the game. But as you're going, you need to insert the little points that will come up later, and you create this wonderful embroidery that's on top of the story. And you have these layers of player characters, backstories, their goals, their desires. When you get to party together, ask them to give you like a short-term goal and a long-term goal, and find ways to insert those, and if possible to help them work towards that. Then you have the story that you're playing. No matter what, you're still going to be playing a story, whether it's a short little thing that resolves in 3 sessions or a longer thing that resolves in a year. You have the stories that are there, and then you have the little hidden moments that pop up at the right place that they go, man, were my notes good enough to figure out what the hell is going on?
It's fun. I want to touch on that a little bit, but something I want to add to it is that's so funny because I recently had an experience with my Friday crew where they were at a jungle someplace, inspired by like Skull Island, a lot of giant monsters and kind of problematic bugs and stuff like that. And one of the characters, I narrated because of a very bad roll that they just got bit by a mosquito. And something that I think is underutilized, which the SLAD kind of is like a really good utilization of it, is something that is going in the background that'll soon present itself. And disease is very much a thing that's in D&D that doesn't really get utilized a lot.
It is underutilized.
And so I was like, I'm going to give them fever, and how bad can I make it? They're on Skull Island, if there's going to be a disease here, it's going to be really bad. And I think we played maybe 7 sessions, maybe a little longer. And it wasn't until there was this really important moment where I was like, hey, character, because I was keeping track of their countdown. I was like, yeah, you start to feel feverish, and something feels very wrong. You're a little itchy, and that wherever on your arm, where the mosquito bit.
Did they scratch in real life?
I would imagine so. When we do our non-streamed games, it very much is like cams off. But I told them that, and they were like, there was almost like this mirrored effect of, they were like, oh, how itchy. And I was like, I know what you're doing. You're like going through history, like, I felt itchy in the past. What do you mean? But no, and that's funny. So sort of jumping, so I just want to add that, but jumping back into what I was going to ask is, it definitely feels like that was definitely a moment that stuck with you, especially when it comes to the content you make for Dragon Tongue. Is there any like major moment in the stories you've told that just does not leave you? It's a moment of heroics or fear or whatever.
There is a moment, and it's a moment that it's actually 3 moments that make a series of 1. And the first moment, in the Shattered Obelisk, there is a old dwarven temple that's run down that a Medusa has taken hold in. And the Goliath barbarian decides to parlay with her, not fight, and just gives in. And his character is in a relationship with another character.
Okay.
And he turns to stone. A big fight ensues. Feelings are had. And at the end of the fight, they're gonna beat a Medusa, right? It's a Medusa, a couple of Galabdur, and the Medusa retreats inside her room. The next time that they see her, she is holding a mirror. She's intertwined herself with the Goliath, and
Oh,
they
that's
forged together to make a single statue that this romantically involved character has to look at. She doesn't have greater restoration yet. She can't smash the Medusa for fear of breaking the other. And at that moment, the character's backup character runs in, gives her a letter from her father saying that the lords of the realm are aware of what's happening and that they are sending backup, and that she loves her, the father loves the daughter very much. And there is a moment of pure touching love and a moment of loss. And the most unexpected thing is a Medusa turning her gaze on herself. So it was a moment of complete unexpected heartbreak. It was fantastic. And
That's
then they
devilish.
quest for several sessions until she gets greater restoration to bring him back. And then the bring back is just moments. It's all about moments.
I mean, major applause on all the different layers of intrigue and kind of emotional pulling of strings. That's incredible. A choice of a Medusa encasing her own self in stone to prevent this character from being revived in a... Oh man, that's so good. That's
And
such a
it's so
clever
unexpected too. It is so
That's-
unexpected too, because canonically they can turn their gaze on themselves. You
Yeah.
have to avoid mirrors. So the most unexpected thing is that she will intertwine herself and turn herself.
I would have never thought of that. That's such.
it was
I'm
a
going
great
to
moment.
steal that one day. I don't know when. I don't know if there'll ever be a Medusa in my campaigns, but whoa, that is such a good choice.
They are the other campaign. The other campaign was they recently TPK'd and transitioned to Acquisitions Incorporated. Before that, it was a Spelljammer campaign, and they had a Medusa too. And Medusas have become one of my favorite monsters. And the Medusa is like a Zaza Gavor. You got to speak the Medusa up here, and the Medusas all talk like this, and they are so fun to play and to do. And darling, you have to use a Medusa. You've got to use a Medusa.
Oh,
And
there
when you do,
go.
you've got to use the voice.
Yeah, there's sort of this with that particular like almost Italian voice. There's very much of like there's a not. I don't want to say swagger is the right word, but there definitely is a bit of a like there's a bit of a sway to it of like, oh, don't worry, I'm comfortable. I am so comfortable right now. Nothing you can say or do would sway me away. And I've always believed that when you build a villain, there's nothing more scary than comfortability. If someone is sitting in front of you and the party has brandished weapons and spells at the ready and they look decked out, there's nothing scarier than a villain walking up, sitting down, grabbing their cup and going, "So you've come to see me." It's like, "We're going to kill you." Let me finish my cup first. It's that type of confidence is always threatening.
It's like the Strahd approach, right? Every time you see Strahd, especially early on, he's always got that swagger and that unshakableness to him.
Yeah.
It just makes him one of the best villains.
Yeah. He could care less about what is going through your mind right now. He's just seen your progression and going, "Oh, you've done so little." And it is infuriating. I had a party who one of the party members was tied to some fire giants. And from my own knowledge, when I remember when fire giants sort of their own backstory, they very much taken like, small, I don't want to say human because there's obviously different races, but like they take, these humanoids as kind of like slaves and workers because they're not, fire giants are generally, especially from the book, are not nice beings.
No,
see
they're
themselves.
fun bad guys.
They're fun bad guys. They see themselves as higher kind of authority or just sort of as beings above all. And I ended up coming up with a word to describe humanoids that they would call humanoids, which was cattle. So whenever the party was dealing with them, they'd be like, "Do not talk to us, cattle," and that infuriated my. Every time there was discussion of one of the players had a backstory with them, so they were like, "You're very interesting that you were made in this way, but the rest of you cattle, you know, you can go back to the fields," and that would just trigger, and I think that's something that us GMs chase a lot. Is we chase emotion. We're like emotional vampires. We'll suck that away from you and enjoy it.
Who's the bad guys of the Jungle campaign? Who are the bad guys on Jungle Skull Island?
The fire giants were TLDR. The Skull Island. It was once it had a volcano who was guarded by a ancient golden dragon. And then the golden dragon was brought down by heavy chains from a clan of fire giants and then put them underneath the volcano. So it almost like the tribal people who lived in this island came under new management. Like they're like, "Oh, this wonderful gold dragon is so great. Who are these fire giant blokes? Why are they taking over everything? Oh, they're making life worse for us. That's great." And they became sort of the in this arc, the villains of the arc of like they're the ones who were owning everything at this point.
Are golden dragons your favorite kind of dragons? I think that DMs and GMs, if they have a favorite kind of dragon especially, that's the one they often go to. Like, I will reuse silver dragons a lot. Are gold dragons one of your favorite dragons? Or your favorite dragon?
I'll be real, I don't like dragons.
Really?
And the reason
it's like
why,
half of the name.
I know. I think the reason why is because I play with a lot of experienced players, and all of them have fought numerous dragons in their time, where if I introduce a dragon, there is no emotion for me to feed off. Because again, as a GM, I revel in those moments of people either being scared or being, the moments where there is some sort of conflict, and no one is ever scared of a dragon anymore, especially when they're experienced. They're like, "Okay, we're too young for this. We're too level. Let's just run." And I'm like, no emotion behind it, just like strategic movement. Okay. So I don't really
retreat has a cost.
Retreat has a cost. I generally use dragons to emphasize the dangers around them. So the few times that I have used dragons, it's this ancient dragon was brought down. Like the gold dragon is a good example. It's like he was brought down. Why? Because there were 24 fire giants, and that's dangerous. As numbers and danger. It's. I don't like. I'm not the biggest fan of dragons, but if I had to choose one, I like white dragons. There's something about there's something about an animalistic, because they're like, I think they've been described as the most animalistic predators of dragonkin, where I'm like, there's something interesting about just a beast who is nearly impossible to kill from a normal person's perspective.
Okay. The white dragons are fun. I think they're like the youngest kind of dragon.
Yeah. Anything that is that huge and destructive, that makes bold, very teenager kind of choices of like, you hurt me, I can't wait to chase you till the ends of the earth to get back at you. There's like this pain of youth that I can't deny that is a great scary creature.
After that response, I'm not going to ask you what you think of dungeons, just for fear of the same response. You can't hate both.
I love dungeons. I love turning things that generally are not into dungeons into sort of like searchable spaces. This is how much I hate dragons, or not hate dragons, but how much I not that I hate them, that I kind of.
Damn you, dragons!
I have a Wednesday crew that is dealing with a person or a creature called the Sickening King. Essentially, he is a mummy lord, and in his domain, there are this dome that keeps a lot of like, and I don't know the actual gas, but I think it was like carbon monoxide. It was not breathable air. It was just condensed carbon dioxide. And so the players got really smart. They had air bubble on. And what the Sickening King would do is that he would lure dragons in, and they would go into the border and kind of can't get out, and they would suffocate. They couldn't breathe. And so he did that to multiple dragons, and this is how much I kind of were like, dragons can be used for other stuff. He stacked them on top of each other, and as the bodies began to rot, they kind of began to meld into each other, and he turned it into a mine. Or into a dungeon where people would go in, like he would enslave people, and they would go in and they would mine dragon bone. And sometimes you would go into one dragon's mouth and enter in a chest of another one, and then walk into another tail, and then go into a wing. And it was kind of like, it was this complete body horror that turned into a full dungeon, which I absolutely
That sounds fun. That sounds very fun.
And again, no dragons to utilize beyond you are now set dressing.
But no, that's fun. That's very fun.
I love working against type, and I'm not sure if you feel the same way. Of like, sometimes even the wizard can be flirty. Who knows? They don't have to be the bard.
First, any character can be flirty. Any character can also be badly flirty. I don't want to say cringe, but it's all there. I like both. I like leaning into types and stereotypes. When we started the Spelljammer campaign that recently ended, my goal was to give the players my goal was to give the players the Spelljammer experience. You fly on the ships, you experience wild space, you face you see Kandori. We actually mined Kandori. There's mind flares. I gave them a house on the Rock of Brawl when we hit what was our second season. And the stereotype of any setting, you need to let them experience that. And because you're giving them a part of the game. And then after you set it, then you can subvert it.
That's fair, yeah. Well, you have told numerous stories, a few of them complete, which is fun. So
some of them true, no.
Which is great for everyone here. If you ever wanted to check out Dragon Tongue, you can go. You can have full experiences from beginning to end. So I wanted to thank you so much, D10, for really joining me here and kind of not only sharing your stories with me, but also putting them online for everyone to ingest and enjoy. Where can people find Dragon Tongue Entertainment?
On Twitch and YouTube, it's DTE_N. Both will work there. We also have a TikTok where if you search the same, you will find it. And I have a Discord server that we have recently started up that all are welcome to join and jump into. If you want a link to that, I can send you an invite. I often ask people, or I intend to often ask people for like NPC ideas and item ideas. So if you guys want to be a part of the world and find little chunks in there, by all means, give me suggestions, even art, if you dare. And you will find your ideas, art, and everything mixed into these worlds. And if enough people go to Twitch and follow and subscribe, and we can start getting some subscriber revenue, we can do more dice giveaways. We can start showcasing small dice creators. That's something I always love to do.
Hell yeah. Propping up the creatives. So I want to thank you again, D10, for joining us, as well as you, audience, who were able to stick around. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.